she mentioned that she's concerned about puffiness around the eyes, discoloration, darkness, lack of skin tone. I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that, so that's a good way to get more conversation going, because if there's anything that's not clear to you, it's important to really get that dialogue going, because what I find is that the block that people have when they're making recommendations is they don't have enough information to make an effective recommendation. And it puts them in a very kind of a stressful position because they're concerned about not being expert enough. And so if it's all about just really finding out what this client actually needs, it makes it a collaboration. And you never have to sell anything. It's all about providing solutions. So talk about the skin tone issue a bit.
Well, it's skin tone, but it's also pigmentation. So when I look at my face, it might be different than what other people see, but I think that I have a lot of red. I think I have a lot of uneven skin tone. Certainly I have darker circles under my eyes, and I have really uneven cheeks. So I have natural sort of festooning under this right eye. So if you take a look at my cheek height this way, I'm really uneven. And so I'm in the injectable business, and people will actually come up to me and ask me, when were you last injected in your tear troughs? Because they look over-injected because I'm so uneven side to side. So that really bothers me. And I don't have a lot of time in the morning.
This is a big aspect too, is how much time is the client really willing to spend? That's a big determining factor. So what would you say is a realistic everyday amount of time?
Okay, if I spend 10 minutes, that would be a lot. Because I oftentimes come from Bikram yoga, so I'm really hot and sweaty and gross, and I shower and go straight to work. So you'll be horrified to hear this, but I will actually pull over I will pull over at the side of the road and do my makeup in the car before I go in the office.
Colorescience, our newest sort of direction is all about doing more with fewer products and gearing it towards someone who really does actually do part of their makeup in the car. I mean, a lot of people do. It's a reality thing. So that, of course, gives you the opportunity to bring up something like the Beauty on the Go kit, which gives her a full face kit, eyes, cheeks, lips, brows, liner, shadow, everything in one kit. So this can go in her bag, she can take it with her to the gym, whatever she needs to really give her the tools that she will want to use, because it's realistic and gives her the outcome, of course, at the same time. So with Colorescience, you have a series of different ways that you can create very deliberate sheer layers. And the operative word there is sheer, because sheer deliberate layers actually mimic the variation in the natural skin tone and texture. If we think of our skin as a surface, our skin is a light absorbing surface. And so traditional makeup, because of how it's comprised of dyes, waxes, fragrance, alcohols, petrochemicals, it actually is also a light absorbing surface. So you take that traditional makeup and you put it on, and we're seeing immediately an artificial texture. With mineral, entirely light reflective. And so even before you do anything in the way of actual strategic coverage, the skin looks more perfect with less effort than it actually is in reality. So that was one of the main things that attracted me to Colorescience first, was that it's a better illusion, a better makeup tool to create that illusion of bare, healthy skin. Even when it's not sheer, it appears to be sheer. And so it's highly commercial because of that, and it's really what everyone wants. If you ask anyone, well, what do you want from foundation, from makeup? Well, I'd like to look like myself, like I look natural, like I kind of wake up like this. They want that seemingly effortless element versus looking like they spent a lot of time painting a lot of stuff on. So to me, it's the perfect complement to people who are focused on their skin anyway, because number one, it completes the actual protection of the skin. Mineral, aside from its other benefits, is highly effective as a barrier against moisture loss. It's physical, it's inert, it doesn't break down regardless of what the environment is. At the same time, it's particulate. And so the skin is able to oxygenate, exfoliate, do everything it needs to do without being interrupted in the way that occlusive cosmetics have that characteristic. So those are the type of features and benefits, I think, that are really important to pass on to your clients. They're used to hearing things from you like, oh, it's much better for you. They're used to hearing that. And for a lot of people, that's not a big incentive. The bottom line is, how do I look when I have it on? How does it feel? And the reality is, it's a better makeup illusion. It's a better tool for perfecting and not looking made up. So she talked about the various concerns she has, and she mentioned redness quite a few times. When you look at your skin, you see redness before you see anything else?
I think I'm all sort of modeled through here. And I don't have anything on right now, but I feel like I'm all modeled through here, almost mask-like, and I certainly am dark under the eyes.
Okay, so darkness, redness, two big, very common issues. We also have what's called the corrector kit, which is your go-to for any type of specific camouflage needs. Within this kit, you can address pigmentation, either hypo or hyper, redness, under-eye darkness, the big issues that everyone tends to have on a daily basis. But what I find many times is that this kit is positioned as a temporary coverage product when someone's healing after something or just after injectables, when in actuality, it's both foundation and concealer and a contouring product all in one palette. So if the client doesn't see what it's capable of, much more difficult to retail that. So we'll be using it in that way today, so you'll have a chance to see it maximized versus minimized. But before any of those sheer layers occurs, the very first sheer layer that really is crucial is what we call mineral prep. And what mineral prep involves is creating the most hydrated, firmed, glassy surface possible, because the mineral is going to respond to whatever surface is put on top of. It becomes that texture. And so if that texture isn't as hydrated as it could be, if it isn't as refined as it could be, then the mineral will actually accentuate that. And that's that experience you hear people talk about, is that they're putting their mineral onto an unprepped surface. And so it tends to exaggerate versus minimize. So the very first component in this mineral prep category are our 3 hydrating mists. And these are designed for different skin tendencies. We have one that's a great balancer for oil-rich or congestion-prone skin. We have one that has a unique heavy water component for skin that's very dry or low in oil production. And then one for all skin types, which is a blend of primarily antioxidant vitamin E to shield the skin when it's out in the sun. So this is technically part of your sun protection line, but can be used with the makeup as well. So I find if someone's going to be seeing Colorescience for the first time, and I don't know necessarily what's on their skin exactly, I find that going to one of the mists, and we're going to use the combination skin mist for our client, because she really has that type of skin that's obviously not ultra dry, obviously not ultra oily, so she's kind of a combination. So we're misting this to create instant hydration. Instant. And also, of course, it reactivates whatever moisture is already on her skin. So we're starting that whole process of perfecting. So the next step, of course, is the eye area. And we have a concentrate, a peptide-infused, vitamin-based concentrate that is very, very specific for firming and smoothing and plumping up the texture what we call expression texture, i.e. wrinkles. And this also activates with your mist, and you can spot treat anywhere where cosmetics would tend to collect and crease and settle. So this eliminates that issue prior to your makeup application. If they have issues with lack of firmness around the lips, it's a great place for that. The key is it's a concentrate. It needs to go ideally onto a pre-hydrated surface. The next component is the lip area. And we have a trio of products for the lip. We call the lip restoration. It involves a serum, which is an exfoliating serum, an enzyme exfoliant. So we all know that if the lip isn't smooth, putting color on a rough, cracked lip, disaster. So what you want is to start your whole color application by ensuring that you have that smooth lip surface. So it can be left on the lips overnight as a treatment, or it can be cleansed off, depending on how you feel the client wants to work with it. But the key is it happens before color. Also, its opposite usage is as a dissolver for any type of lip color they have on their lips, say at the end of the day. It takes that off, breaks it down as it exfoliates their lip. So it's a great treatment room product because they're obviously coming in to see you, usually with some level of makeup on. So it's a great way to start the whole treatment process by addressing the lips specifically, because it tends to be a neglected area. And if they're investing in lip augmentation procedures, it's going to keep the integrity of the actual tissue of the lip in really good condition, so your injectable results will be that much better. So it's not like a substitute for injectables, it's a support product for injectables. The next component is what's called lip serum. And this also is a therapeutic peptide based on vitamin A and vitamin E. And you'll notice that it has a cosmetic tint and also a lot of light reflection. So it starts the whole color improvement process because the lip immediately looks healthier, more full, and you allow this to settle into the lip tissue while you do the rest of the makeup. So when you're ready for finishing with lips, the lips are in that great, smooth, hydrated condition. So the color looks its best. The third component is really a kind of a foundation for the lips, which is tinted. We call this Bed of Roses. The color is designed to mimic the color of the natural tissue in the lip. So it works on everyone to give them an immediate, healthy, vitalized lip. And the texture really is like a paint. It's very, very wet, and you can create very, very long-wearing color that if the client has issues with feathering or bleeding, it solves that issue. So that's your lip component. So we've done the exfoliant and lip serum. And then your last component is what's called Pep Up Gel. And this is a 10-peptide tinted bronzing firming gel. So lots of skin structure support from your peptides, and then a combination of both pearl and mineral pigment. So we'll just do one pump, and you can see how, again, it's tinted. We'll go back to her mist, and we know that hydration is attracted to hydration. So being a water-based serum, it likes a wet application. So this is adding an immediate glow, but also helping start the process of neutralizing red and brown tones in the skin, because that apricot color helps neutralize both. So it's a great way to create this perfect world for your mineral to live on top of, for the lips, for the eyes, and full face. So you mentioned that redness was a priority for you, and so we have a primer which its newest name is Skin Bronzing Primer. And some of you may know it who've had the line for a while as Wild to Mild. And It's the go-to for concerns about pigmentation and concerns about redness. It addresses both at the same time. The golden component addresses your redness, and the apricot component addresses browns. They neutralize. So it's a big seller for us for that reason, because it's a very common concern. So I find it's important to show the client how the primer is fast and easy to use. So if you start with a kind of a pearl size amount and just move it onto the fingertips and start at the neck and just smooth it over the whole face, just like she's applying a moisturizer. It's not a rubbing or a scrubbing motion, it's just flat of the fingertips. What do we call that? Effleurage? It's that kind of a motion. So then, if she wanted, on that quick, easy day when she's in a rush, that's her whole primer application. But if she wanted, she could detail with it afterwards. Say around the nose, or maybe she has issues, she mentioned around the mouth. And then under the eyes, of course, it's going to help brighten. Look upward for me. So you'll recall that on her eye area, she has the Pep Up Concentrate. So the primer immediately melts into that concentrate, and she gets an area that's matte and smooth, but the primer is holding all that peptide therapy on her skin the entire day until she cleanses her makeup off. So detailing. So this whole concept of pre-perfecting allows you to get the most predictable, most effective, most long-wearing makeup application with the least amount of effort. The tendency for most people is to put on too much product and not move it enough. So our recommendation always is to use less than you think you're going to need and move it more than you think you need to, and you'll get the perfect result. So her finishing step, as far as the overall look of the skin, would be her foundation and concealer kit, which we call the corrector kit. And what's great about a palette is you can hold it up to the face and you can really decide, okay, so what range of color is her skin in? If we look at the very top, it's darker than she is. At the very bottom, it's lighter than she is. So she's right in that middle category. And we talked earlier about how sheer layers mimic the variety in the skin. A combination of color also mimics the variety of the skin. So the brush that I find, I'm going to have our client actually hold that so she gets used to holding it, because obviously she's taking it home with her. So we're going to work with a retractable brush, and this brush is customizable to be made to be more firm and more targeted and more concentrated, or you can make it more of a blush or a bronzer shape, or you can open it wide up and use it for your all-over foundation. The two key concepts that are really important with mineral that I find can't be verbalized enough is that mineral responds to how you move it. Right now, to load our brush, we're circling, let's maybe turn it that way, sorry. We're circling to load those three colors. We're not digging, we're not swiping, it's a circle, because that loads all three uniformly. And then her initial application is the same thing. It's a circle. Because what this does is it meshes her primer with her serum, with her foundation. It's all being meshed together. And I find it's very important that the client see the progression of how the makeup is looking. So do just the one side first. And I find also it seems a little bit unimportant, but it's important not to give them a small mirror. Give them something big so they can see overall.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously, we haven't dealt with specific areas yet, but that's our next phase, is you're starting big picture and you're finishing with the details. Just the opposite of how most people approach makeup. They start out focusing on all their flaws and then spend the rest of the time trying to make that look natural because they put on too much product. Whereas this way, you're honing in after you have the benefit of the foundation. So obviously we need a tool that's smaller. So the brush comes with a flat, firm concealer style brush. And this gives us an opportunity to detail. So for example, she has an issue with redness here on the cheek. We'll go to those same 3 tones that we've used for her foundation, and we'll mix them again. This time we're pressing for a more concentrated color, and we're pressing. And it's that simple that it's just the opposite of what we were doing earlier. You're barely moving the mineral at all. When you approach it this way, it gives you full camouflage results. But we're only focusing on that area specifically, and then we can move up to, say, the under eye area. And she mentioned that she was concerned with darkness there, so we'll detail that area. And again, you've got that primer, you've got that serum. It's not dry at all. And so the mineral mimics that hydrated area, but allows it to stay smooth versus being too shiny. So we'll go down to the nasolabial area. She might have redness issues there. And then she mentioned that around the mouth was a concern. So we could go back to our larger brush. We can make it more firm for concentrated deposit, those same 3 tones. And this time we'll press and roll versus circles. So we've addressed all 3 of those areas with that one palette. Her last way to use the palette would be to go to the 2 very deepest tones, stay with that same firm brush, and she can use those colors as a contour to start her cheek color application. So for this, we're going under the bone, and we're pressing and rolling along that bone shape to create definition here, which automatically creates a highlight there even before you put anything there. So for every face shape you work on, this is the best place to start contouring because this is where everyone's bone structure is most pronounced. And for most people it comes to about the outer corner of the eye, and that's where the cheek starts to get more rounded. So I've deliberately done one side completely so we have a basis for comparison, and she has a basis